Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt Loughlin, and it is my privilege to welcome you to Prudential Center, home of the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils. Today, we officially introduce Sunny Mehta as the sixth general manager in Devils history. Thank you to the staff of the New Jersey Devils and Prudential Center who have joined us today. And thank you to those Devils fans around the world who are watching on our social media channels and on the Devils YouTube channel. We very much appreciate your company. There are other notable people who are with us today, and they include members of the Devils senior leadership team and our hockey operations department. Sunny's wife, Nicole, has graciously joined us today. We are pleased to welcome head coach Sheldon Keefe, along with Nico Hischier, the captain of the Devils, and several of his teammates who are with us today, plus very many alumni who have also taken time out of their day to join us here at The Rock. We'd also like to thank the media who are in attendance today. We'll have a chance to have your questions answered in just a few moments. But at first, I'd like to welcome the managing partner of the New Jersey Devils, David Blitzer, to say a few words. Blitz.
All right. Thanks, Matt, and welcome to everybody joining us live, and I imagine online as well. First off, I'd like to acknowledge how disappointing this past season was. No one's happy, to be clear. The team's not happy, ownership's not happy, and of course, our fans are not happy. I'd like to acknowledge our fans. I'd like to thank them for their patience. I'd like to thank them for sticking with us. And I assure you that we are doing everything we can to bring this club and this organization back to what you all expect from us. Our expectations are to be a perennial playoff team and to be competing for the Stanley Cup championship. And unfortunately, we have not made that happen in too long a period of time. Because of that, we have had to make a difficult decision at the top of our hockey operations organization. I'd like to start by thanking Tom Fitzgerald. Tom is a friend. Tom worked for the New Jersey Devils organization for 11 seasons. Tom is an amazing person, and I think Tom did a great job for this organization. I wish Tom all the very best. But we did feel like it was time to make a change at the top. And I sat down with Tom about 2 weeks ago, and we both made the decision to part ways. As I mentioned, Tom is an excellent person, an excellent hockey executive, and I wish him all of the best on his next endeavors. But with that being said, we are here today to welcome Sunny Mehta to New Jersey Devils. Now, I think most of you know this, but this is not Sunny's first time at the New Jersey Devils. In fact, I recall very vividly hiring Sunny in 2014, and he reminded me the other day, which I had forgotten actually, about our interview process at that point in time for Sunny. So I'm very excited that Sunny and Nicole have decided to take on this challenge and move home to New Jersey. And I'm looking forward for him getting to work. I think it's day 2. I could be off by 24 hours, and get us back to where we want and expect to be. So with that, Sunny, thank you.
Thanks, David.
We will hear from Sunny in just a moment, but first a photo op.
You didn't get this the last time, I don't think, did you?
No. I'm glad they put the apostrophe by the 26, so Patty doesn't get too upset. Yeah.
Good. That's all good.
Oops. One more.
One more?
And though it is a bit chilly today, it is appropriate that it is sunny in Newark, New Jersey, and in the state of New Jersey as we welcome the newest general manager, number 6 in a long line. Please welcome Sunny Mehta. Sunny.
Thank you. Wonder how many times we're going to get those Sunny puns. Good start. First and foremost, I really want to thank David Blitzer, all of Devils ownership, Josh Harris, and also Bob Myers, Tad Brown, not just for hiring me today, but also 12 years ago. I can certainly tell you that my career would not have been the same without these guys, and it's a thrill, it's a dream, frankly, to be back here. I want to thank Sheldon, Nico, and the rest of the boys for coming out. Appreciate you guys being here. I also want to thank the Panthers, Viola family, Matt Caldwell, and, of course, Billy Zito. It was a great 6 years, culminating in 2 Stanley Cup championships. It's a time in my life I'll never forget. I want to thank my family and friends. Some of them are here, and especially my wife, Nicole. I wouldn't be here without your support. Finally, I'd really, really like to thank the Devils fans. I've heard, read, and felt your support in recent times here, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. As many of you know, I have been you for 40 years, and it's really not an exaggeration when I tell you this is my dream job. I grew up 20 miles from here. I played high school hockey in New Jersey. I've been following this team since I was a small kid. It's funny because I was born in Michigan, but I moved here at 4 years old in 1982. You know who else moved here in 1982? The Devils, yeah. So, with that being said, listen, I'm up here in this chair now, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be times where fans disagree with me, and there's going to be times where they might question my decisions, but the one thing they'll never be able to question is my sincerity, my passion, and my loyalty to this franchise. Okay, with the mushy stuff out of the way, let's talk about the fact of being a GM, right? Because David didn't hire me just because I'm a fan. So a GM has many responsibilities, right? We have to deal with the media. We have to create a culture. We have to manage up. We have to negotiate with agents. But I think it's somewhat safe to say the main objective is to put a winning team on the ice. And I take that seriously. To me, putting a winning team on the ice, that function of a general manager is about decision making. Taking in information of all different sorts, assessing risk, and making decisions. And decisions that you know are going to have inherent uncertainty with them. Thankfully, I have literally studied and practiced that decision-making under the cloud of risk for the past 25 years. First as a poker player, then as an options trader, and for the past 15 years as a hockey executive. My goal for this front office is quite simple. I want to make smart, objective, and educated decisions, and I want to do it over and over and over again. For that reason, I believe I'm the right person to implement that agenda, given my past experiences and successes. The team. So let's talk about the team itself. I'm extremely optimistic about this team. We have a lot of talented players, and I really, truly believe that these talented players are about to hit an inflection point and get over that hurdle. It's my job to make sure that this roster is consistently flush with the necessary amount of talent to be a championship team, and I intend to do that. As for the short term, going forward, there's going to be a period of assessment of all players, coaches, and staff. No decisions are made on anything pertaining to that. As David kind of alluded to, it's literally day 2 for me. So I'm sure there's going to be questions about it, but heads up on that. But overall, I just want to say I'm really, really excited to get to work.
Sunny, congratulations. We're all looking forward to working with you as you embark in your new role. At this time, we're going to open it up to questions. We have microphones available. We ask that you identify yourself and the outlet for which you are working, and the questions are available for both David and for Sunny. Fucci.
Welcome, Sunny. Anthony Fuccilli, MSG Network. Just welcome home, and what did you learn from your Florida experience in building a championship team that you hope to bring to New Jersey?
Thanks for the question. Boy, so much. I would say the main thing, and it's funny, I see a lot of similarities, because when I got to Florida, they had some recent tough times, but they had some very, very talented players, and there were some things we needed to keep and some things we needed to change. I think The biggest thing is, I kind of alluded to already, that decision-making process. I was fortunate enough to work under my last boss, Bill Zito, and we had slightly different backgrounds in the sense that he went into law, I went into finance, but he also is a person who grew up in hockey like myself, and he's also a person who never played professionally per se. But I think Bill's biggest strength and our biggest strength as a group in Florida was this idea of having a diversified group of people with different backgrounds in hockey, and having different viewpoints. Bill did a phenomenal job of aggregating those different viewpoints and coming to a decision, and that's exactly what I intend to do here.
Steve Whyno, Associated Press. Sunny, obviously you probably had other options for where you could go, and you mentioned this being a dream job of yours, but what made you choose the Devils, this team? Obviously you grew up here and all of that. And David, were you ever worried about losing the opportunity to hire Sunny?
Listen, this is where I've always wanted to be. This is where I want to be. This is where I grew up. It's well documented. Like, I was 7 years old, and my mom used to take me to the old rink in Totowa to watch this team practice. I remember, I think it was the 87-88 run when we made it to the conference finals for like the first time. It was incredible. I was devastated in 94 by the Matteau goal, and I was, elated in 95, 2000, 2003. I actually went to Game 7 in 2003. Marty got completely hosed on the Conn Smythe. It should not have been Jaguar. But anyway, in case it's not obvious, this is my heart.
Yeah, well, look, I think when you come to a conclusion that you found the right person for a role, you want to kind of try to get that done and get it done quickly, and I think that we did when we made that decision. So, of course, I would be worried that Sunny might go somewhere else, but frankly, having had that discussion with him, once we made the decision that Sunny was the right person, it moved very quickly, and I'm very thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sunny, how you doing? James Nichols, New Jersey Hockey Now. Right. Just when you reflect on, if you have been able to yet, when you reflect on the 2025-26 season for the Devils, just were you able to tell at all where it went wrong, and perhaps what are you thinking in terms of how you're going to implement the change that you say you're going to do?
Thanks, James. And you're definitely from Staten Island. That is a beauty of an accent. Beauty. So as far as, as far as the team in the past, I can't really comment. I watch the Devils. Obviously, we play them twice a year. I've looked at the data. I've done a little bit of analysis in terms of for the interview process and all that. But, this is day 2. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm looking at what we have going forward. And kind of as I said earlier, I'm just excited with what I have, and I'm excited to get to work.
Sunny. Keith Cavanaugh, Puckpedia. First question is, do you still have the starter jacket from your ex-post tucked away, maybe at your parents' house? But the real question is, so going back to when you were in this organization in 2016, what's been making the rounds is how highly you had Jesper Bratt ranked in your pre-draft rankings. So I wanted to ask you a question, just how you plan to bring that drafting philosophy over to the Devils and anything we can expect moving forward.
Yeah, so 2-part question. First part, I have no idea where that starter jacket is, but we did a little meet and greet with the staff, the business staff earlier, and somehow they found one on eBay, made me put it on. So, yeah, I just hope nobody put that on Twitter, but I'm sure it's already there. On the drafting piece, it's funny, that Jesper situation with, that story, I guess, has made its rounds. It kind of took on a life of its own. I had him high on my draft list that year. I can also tell you, there's probably other players that I had in the top 10 that are now, playing in Austria somewhere, So the bottom line is, I can't comment on how the Devils have drafted since then because I haven't been here. That's something I'll take into account with the evaluation process. I also think, it's worth kind of acknowledging how difficult the process of drafting is. You're taking 17-year-old kids and trying to project them 8 years into the future. That's just a hard human task, we're talking about a situation where the NHL drafts something like 20 to 25% of the players ever even become NHL players. So it's a hard thing. I intend to bring that same sort of methodical process to drafting, and it's something I'm excited to kind of work towards.
Still a good story, though, by the way. It is pretty good.
Hi, Sunny. Rob Bacon, NorthJersey.com. Welcome home.
Thank you.
People who have held your position previously have wanted New Jersey to be a desirable destination for free agents. Do you believe that you growing up in New Jersey will help you to explain why this is a place that players should want to play?
Oh, hell yeah. I can explain it right. It's funny. I was talking about this with Connor Brown just a little while ago. It's funny. Like, Florida got a lot of ink for warm weather and low taxes and all that. And I look at New Jersey and I'm just like, this is such a place to be a destination franchise. One thing I think a lot of people don't think about is travel. We have 3 teams that we play multiple times a year that are a bus ride. We've got probably 7 or 8 other teams that we play that are less than an hour flight. That's all time that players get to spend with their family because they're not traveling. That's all, nights that they're coming home and sleeping in their own bed, whereas in other cities where you have much worse travel, they're out in hotels and they're spending far less time with their families. Then you add to that the fact that we're, a stone's throw from New York City. There's, beautiful suburbs for the guys with families. There's Hoboken, Jersey City, and even Manhattan for the single young guys and stuff. To me, this is a no-brainer destination, and I think it needs to be talked about more.
Hey, Sunny. David Satriano from NHL.com. I know when you had your Cup Day a few years ago, you took it here to your hometown and were, at your rink in your school. Either at that time or maybe since you got this job, have you thought about what that would mean to do with the Devils?
Yeah, I definitely have, Actually, both years with the Cup, I took it to New Jersey. The first year I took it to my high school where I played high school hockey, Ramapo High School in Franklin Lakes. And I think as happy as everybody was, I definitely got a lot of chirps that, you're bringing this here with Florida. Why don't you bring it here with New Jersey? So I've kept that in the back of my mind. And the last year, actually, where did we go, Nicole? Yeah, we took it to to hockey in New Jersey. It's a great, wonderful. It was actually twofold. It was ice hockey in Harlem and hockey in New Jersey. Great sort of nonprofit foundations that serve kind of underserved youth, and they were just happy to see the Cup. So.
Hi, Sunny. Matthew Blittner, Sportsology.com. Just with your background in analytics, how do you plan on using that and merging that with the human feel of the game to lead this team forward to where you, David, and this organization knows it can be?
Great question. I'm actually glad you brought up the analytics thing, the A word. So I totally understand why I get kind of put in that analytics bucket, labeled as the analytics guy. But it's really funny. I think if you actually look at my path, my background, even my own path to analytics is considerably different than the typical analytics person in sports, in the sense that, I never really ever set out to be in academia or be a mathematician or anything like that. I personally, even though I ultimately kind of went back and got a master's in data science just to fill in gaps or whatever, but truly, like, where I learned statistics was on the job, like at the poker table, on the trading floor, and in the hockey front offices. And to me, the reason that I ever even cared about analytics, statistics, probability is because it helped me win. It helped me win in poker. It helped me win on the trading floor, and it's helped me win in hockey. And so that's why I care about it. And the blending is, of course, that's important. In the same way that in poker, it's not just numbers. You have to have a feel for your opponent. You have to understand the subjectivity of bluffing. You have to understand the psychology. And the same thing was true in trading, right? Like, you have to have a feel for markets. You have to understand sort of like how news affects things and subjectivity, human emotion affects things. And of course it's the same. Of course it's the same. Yes, data does undoubtedly give a huge advantage in hockey in terms of projecting future performance of players, but you have to understand all those same things: the character, the locker room, the culture, the intangibles. All that stuff matters.
Hi, Kristy with the Hockey News. Hi again.
Hey, how are you?
Good. What is the identity of the New Jersey Devils with you as general manager?
So identity in terms of a style of play, that is something that, frankly, I haven't put a ton of thought into. It's something like I'll talk with Sheldon about in the coming upcoming off season here. For me personally, I don't really necessarily gravitate towards thinking that you have to play a certain style to win. Obviously, we played a somewhat idiosyncratic style with the Panthers, but I mean, listen, the Lightning played a considerably different style than we did, and they won 2 cups. And so I think we have to play to whatever it is our identity is, and not kind of do it the other way where we put the cart before the horse.
Jim Biringer has a question. Get a mic, third row.
Hey, Sonny. Jim Biringer here, Full Press Hockey. I've seen your work down in Florida covering the Panthers during their run. Bill Zito is known for his scouting. How do you manage and blend the scouting, the amateur and pro scouting, into your background?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking on what I said earlier, to me, Bill's biggest strength was aggregating information. To me, his biggest strength was embracing lots of different viewpoints in our front office, having traditional scouts, having young scouts, older scouts, having a lot of emphasis on data and analytics, sports science. He tried to leave no stone unturned, and to me his biggest strength was taking all that information, making sense of it, aggregating it, and then he did a phenomenal job of decision making, and that's pretty much exactly what I want to do here. I mean, obviously I have my own nuances and my own style, and there's differences between Billy and myself, but for sure that experience in Florida was like an incredible learning experience for all of us. Like everybody in that front office over those 6 years, we all learned and collaborated together.
Sunny on this side, Danielle McCartan from WFAN. How are you?
Good.
2 questions. I know you're a local guy, maybe even a Mets fan, but I'm sure
Who told you that?
No, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
It's true.
Okay. Well, then I'm sure you know that David Stearns blew up that core of homegrown players. So my question, kind of 2 parts. One, I know that your Devils have high draft picks and a lot of homegrown guys. How important is it to you to keep this core together, A? And B, being such a fan of this team, how do you plan to maintain that objectivity in roster construction?
That's a great question. On the first part, again, specific players and personnel, it's day 2 still for me, so that's something I'll kind of think about, and that'll be part of the evaluation process in the off season. On the keeping objective, sure, in some ways that's going to be hard. I don't think it's a bad thing to care so deeply about the franchise you work for, but I also do think, again, it's in my nature to be a somewhat objective person. I think the training that I've had from playing poker, I mean, it's almost impossible to be a successful poker player and not have a level of objectivity. I think that'll serve me well.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Steve Politi from NJ.com. David, you teased about the first interview you had with Sunny. I'm curious, what did he remind you about that when perhaps it wasn't as obvious a hire as it is now? And Sunny, what do you remember about that process, kind of getting into hockey at that point?
Well, I remember what Sunny reminded me the other day, actually reminded my wife, was that when he was leaving, he had to walk through my kitchen, and she offered him some steak, which I had no recollection of. I remember,
poker player.
but I do remember my first question I ever asked Sunny, and I forget exactly what the salary cap was in 2014, but I'm going to guess that it was somewhere between 50 and 60 million. And I basically came in and I said, all right, Sunny, you have the ability to spend to the cap. Show me the roster on a clean sheet of paper. And it wasn't about individual names, by the way. It was just about how he thought through where he might emphasize dollars, because let's be clear, we're a team that is spending to the cap. And once you're a team that's spending to the cap, that capital allocation, by definition, is extremely important in a hard cap system. So I was just trying to get a sense for the way his brain worked, and the way his brain worked is probably the way you would all hope his brain worked, because it's pretty good.
It's funny that that's what you remember about that interview, because that's not what I remember about that interview. What I remember about that interview was I was walking into a boardroom, and for the first time I was meeting with David Blitzer, Josh Harris, and Lou Lamoriello. It was like Murderer's Row. And I think my wife will remember this. Like, I went in there with a plan. Like, I had all this stuff planned out. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And I went in there, and it was just like the firing squad. They just started peppering me with questions, and I was like, And then, afterwards I got done. I called my wife, and she's like, how did it go? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I think it went well, but, like, that was not what I was expecting. So it's different perspectives.
Sunny, when you were in Florida, you won. You had the luxury of winning twice. But through that process, what did you learn about what's so hard about winning in this league, even though you did it twice? And from that, what drives you most as you take on this role?
Well, what drives me most is there's obviously just no better feeling than lifting that Stanley Cup. It's indescribable. Yeah, look, winning's hard. You can do, in some ways there's a lot of parallels to poker in this where you can kind of do everything right and still lose. I mean, like it's a lesson you have to learn as a poker player where you can study the game, you can do everything right, you can get your money in as an 80-20 favorite, and you're going to lose. You're supposed to lose 20% of the time. And I think there are a lot of parallels to hockey, and the learning lesson there is that you just have to focus on what you can control. You have to focus on the process. You have to be really, really good at improving the odds, so to speak. Everything we do is like, you can think of it as a bet, and we want to, increase the probability of that bet over and over and over again. And then, you have to almost somewhat ignore short-term results and just focus on your process and have the guts to stick with it and to know and, be objective that you're making the right decisions and just keep doing it over and over again and know that success will follow.
Sunny, I know you said everything's going to be under evaluation here for staff and players and such. Just when you're having those conversations, though, what do you want to hear from those people in terms of whether you're going to move forward with them or whether you're going to move on from them that will invoke confidence in you to keep them around or will invoke confidence in you if you're going to bring somebody new in?
Yeah, good question. So I've actually already, it is day 2, but I've actually already gotten a chance to reach out to pretty much all of the players and all of the staff. I've had more detailed conversations, for example, with Nico and Jack and a few other guys. And I mean, I'm just nothing but excited. Like all they've exuded to me is a passion. They're all, frankly, pretty pissed off that they're not in the playoffs, which I love. And there's nothing that I can sort of think of in that regard to believe that we can't get over this hurdle. There's nothing. There's not a doubt in my mind.
I'm Ashley Sarge, Latino Sports, 24/7 News Service. I wanted to find out, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Panthers, what have you learned of a relationship between the general manager and the coach and how important that is? And are you going to bring in somebody of experience that has been your general manager to sort of assist you?
So the relationship is paramount, no question. Again, this is only my second day, but I've already had multiple conversations with Sheldon. He seems like a fantastic guy, and we're all on the same page that there'll be an evaluation process going forward.
So I was wondering your thoughts on Jack Hughes from the outside and your excitement of knowing that he's here in the franchise that you inherited.
Yeah, he's an intense dude, man. We met for coffee a couple days ago, and I want to say like the first 20 minutes he just hammered me with poker questions, and I was not expecting that. Listen, what else can be said? Fantastic talent. He absolutely fits that criteria or that mold of what I'm talking about, where I see the development. There are, in my opinion, I saw a lot of this when I went to Florida. Like, we had players of that ilk that kind of hit that part of the age curve, 24, 25, where I'm just extremely excited to see what the sort of upcoming years are going to look like for Jack, because I'm really bullish.
Anthony Corona running with the Devils. When you look at this team today, Sonny, do you believe they are going to be in a position to contend for a cup in the short-term future, or do you see it more as a longer-term thing?
Both. That's my honest answer. Like that's how I have to approach this. I absolutely think we have pieces. We have the framework to win right away. But I also very much care about the long term. My goal is to instill a process that's repeatable over and over and over again, so that the success is sustained. So to me, it's not one or the other. It's absolutely both.
Hi, Sunny. Danielle Amoia with the Hockey Writers. Your tweet with the Howl lyrics, was that just a spur-of-the-moment thing, or did you have that one in your head for a while?
So I'm going to put Pete on the spot again, our phenomenal head of communication. So I had found that just a couple days ago in my dad's old photo album. Obviously, like, this has been a thrill for my family and everything. We're all from New Jersey. You know, they've lived here for a long time, and I grew up here. So I kind of sent that photo to Pete, and he was like, "Oh, this is great. We should use this." And I said, "Well, I kind of have an idea." And I talked about it with him on the phone like an hour later, and it's kind of hard to explain it. You know, it's easier, like, it makes sense when you see the tweet, but I was trying to explain to him what I was going for, and he was kind of listening. He was kind of like, "Okay, yeah, oh, yeah, okay, I get it." And there was kind of a moment of silence, and he's like, "So, are you going to tweet a lot?" I was like, "No, Pete, this is my quota for the year, so don't worry, I'm not going to tweet a lot." It felt like he was the press secretary coming, you know. So.
Yeah, James Dombrowski, could we see you lending your financial mind a little bit also to the Commanders and the 76ers, being that you're working with two brilliant financial people?
You have to ask my boss about that.
We will always take opinions, and let alone from somebody who we have a lot of confidence in. So it's not going to be part of his job description, but I am quite sure that we'll be asking Sunny for his opinion on a variety of things outside of hockey.
This question is for ownership, David. James Nichols over here. Just in making this transition and reflecting on where we are now, just at what point did you know that there needed to be a change and that there had to be a new voice or a new mind molding this team moving forward?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question, but it's a complicated one. There wasn't like a moment where I woke up in the morning and said, like, this needs to change. I think the reality, as I mentioned, is, I worked with Tom for 11 years, okay? And Tom and his team are excellent. And, my relationship with him was very strong, and we would talk all the time. This is a really difficult season. Last year wasn't the easiest season. This year was extremely disappointing. And so there was not a eureka moment. I was evaluating the organization and talking with my partner, right? So talking with Josh and talking out loud to myself sometimes. But ultimately we came to the conclusion that it felt like this was the time that it made sense to part ways. And as soon as that happened is really when I sat down with Tom to just have a really open discussion. And we sort of both left that discussion agreeing that, it made sense timing-wise to make that decision or to part ways.
David, Keith Cavanaugh, Puckpedia. I guess with the rising salary cap, so it's going to be about $104 million next season, then $113 million the following season, potentially up to $120, $125. Do you envision the Devils being a team that will have the resources to spend to the salary cap ceiling, knowing some teams are going to be on internal budgets and not being able to spend up to the cap? Just curious your thoughts on the Devils' philosophy.
Look, I think it's fair to say, and
yeah, I'm curious about this answer too.
I was going to say, Sunny asked that one. No, look, I think it's fair to say we intend to spend to the cap.
Thanks.
And I just want to jump in and say, and I'm not just saying this because he's my boss, but like, listen, I get why, from a fan's perspective, ownership often kind of just wears the results of the team, but part of the allure for me of coming here was to work with somebody as smart and as kind and as dedicated, and competitive and wants to win and dedicate the resource as David Blitzer.
Sunny, a personal question. I believe you're the first general manager first NHL general manager of South Asian descent and heritage. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So to me, it's so great for my parents. Like, I can't tell you how great it is for my parents, listen, I obviously, was born in America and grew up in Jersey, and as a lot of people who grew up in Jersey know, like, when you grow up in Jersey, your identity is kind of just Jersey, Like, you all, everybody, whether, growing up with black, white, Italian, Jewish, Asian, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody goes to the deli, everyone goes to the bagel store for the Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. Everybody goes down the shore, But I just remember, for my parents, like that kind of thing is a big deal. They were immigrants. They came to this country with $50 in their pocket separately. They met here and they worked their way up to sort of put me in this position. And I still remember, like, the first time I had my day with the Cup, the Cup guys were telling my dad that they were pretty certain that I was the first person of South Asian descent to be on the Cup, and like it meant so much to him. So I'm glad that it's in some way I can kind of almost give back to them.
Notice that he said Taylor Ham, by the way.
Oh, not even a question.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Sonny, just what would you describe your poker playing style as, and how do you feel that will translate as general manager?
It's actually a good question. I think so. Most successful long-term poker players are what in the business we call tight and aggressive, which means in some ways you're more patient than other poker players in the sense that you don't play garbage cards. You have the discipline and the patience to wait for your moment. But when you have that moment, you're extremely, extremely aggressive. You have to have the guts to do what it takes when that moment is right to win the hand. And I'd say that's exactly kind of how I view this. So that was a good question.
Hi, David. Danielle Amoia, the hockey writers. In January, New Jersey lawmakers approved a $300 million tax break for the Prudential Center. Assuming there are no holdups, how would that money be used, and what benefits would this provide for fans?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is we've had a 19-year public-private partnership with the city of Newark and the state of New Jersey that's been incredible. And I love this building. It's great, but it's 19 years old. So I think the real focus is going to be on, just structural things that need to happen after that kind of time frame. And then obviously to enhance the fan experience will be a big part of that equation. And what we're really trying to do, right, is extend the life of the Prudential Center for another 20 years. So I think we're very excited about that, and we think it's a great partnership that we have with the city and the state.
If there are no other questions, we thank you all for coming out. David, thank you very much for your presence and the decision-making. Sonny, congratulations once again, and good luck in your role as the general manager of the Devils. On that note, we'll wrap things up. Thank you all for coming here today to Prudential Center. For those who are watching on our social media channels and on Devils YouTube, thanks very much for your company, and we'll see you in September.